Barely Edited is powered by coffee, cuss words, and questionable decisions. If you're holding a baby, walking past the husband, within range of any in-laws, or fake working at your desk with one earbud in, throw on your headphones. This podcast is not a family show. It's raw, it's real, and it's rated absolutely not safe for speaker mode. Listen out loud at your own motherfucking risk. I actually kind of fucking love that.
When I was younger, I remember telling myself that if I was dumb enough to get pregnant, I would have to be mature enough and responsible enough to keep it. Because why should a baby suffer because I decided to sleep around and have unprotected sex? I thought, why would I let a baby suffer just because I was irresponsible and now I was going to kill it? I used to be so against abortions. I was like the number one, if you get an abortion, you're a fucking baby killer. There was no convincing me otherwise. And then I had sex. And then I became pregnant. And all of that changed very quickly.
Here I am, just trying to be myself. It's a crazy world, looking to find my place, and all they do is
Welcome back, my rough drafts. I'm just going to get straight into this one because I feel like there's really no easy way to ease into it or dip your toe into this conversation. And with so much going on in the world that really feels like we are going backwards instead of forwards, I feel like this is a topic that needs to be discussed. This is probably one of the first topics I wanted to talk about, but I didn't know if I wanted to come out that strong. Episode 1. And as I'm sure you know, if you've watched or listened to all of the other podcasts, you know, my life has been, I've lived many lives, it feels like, in my short but long 30 plus years of life. This is a story that I think for a long time I wasn't proud of. And although I am somebody who really talks a lot about the things that have happened to me, and I like making other people feel like they're not the only ones going through something, and that, you know, they shouldn't be embarrassed and they shouldn't feel a specific way about something. I feel like this is something that I carried with me for a while, but at the same time, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. And anyways, so let's just get into it. As you know by now, unfortunately, I hate having to bring this moron back up, but unfortunately, being with somebody for a good amount of years in my youth and having done many mistakes, a lot of learning in this relationship, obviously it comes with a lot of different stories, and this being one of them. I remember I was dating Alex. I was about 18. I think I was almost turning 19. Growing up, I feel like I never really had the most consistent periods. I'm trying to think now, like, I know that I was on birth control for a really long period of my life. Like, from the minute that I decided I was going to have sex, I marched myself down to the CLSC and I said, I'm thinking about having sex, and so I want to go on the pill. And so I did. I have to say that was probably one of the most mature things that I did at my young age. And so thinking about it now, I'm like, it's so weird that it all came back to me. So when I was with Alex, now I remember everything. When I was with Alex, it's not that I wasn't on birth control. I was testing out different birth controls, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't know, I guess when you're going through an abusive relationship, taking a birth control pill every day at 6 o'clock is not something that comes as easily to you when you have a boring and non-chaotic life, because I didn't know if I was going to be fighting for my life in that day. I didn't know if I was going to be getting kicked out of the house, if I was going to be getting cheated on, if I was going to be trying to look for him in a police station, or God knows where the fuck else he was. And so taking a pill every single day, it wasn't something that I was able to do. And I constantly found myself missing my pill for a couple days and then taking like 3 pills in one day and then missing it for like another 4 days. And so my period was really fucked up. It was all over the place. If you've taken birth control, you definitely probably have been down this journey where when you're not super consistent with your birth control, it kind of just throws you all out of whack. And so I remember testing out different types of birth controls. There was the ring. The ring was, let's be fucking honest, it was disgusting. And I remember just even trying to go pee with the ring and it would just come straight out sometimes. Like if I pushed while I was trying to pee, it would literally fall out into the fucking toilet. And so the ring didn't last long. I think that was like a 2-week thing. And so we quickly removed it out of the list. What we did end up trying was the patch. Okay. I personally love the patch because you only had to remember to put it on once a week. And so I used to do it on Sundays, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember this clearly now. This motherfucker, he said to me that he didn't like that I had the patch on because he said that he felt like he was fucking a handicapped person when he would look at the patch. Okay. This is a fucking Band-Aid. My rough drafts, a Band-Aid. That's what it looked like. So I don't know why he associated this to anything other than just what it was, a Band-Aid, a square Band-Aid. Sometimes on the back of my shoulder, sometimes on the lower back of my back. And so he didn't seem to like that one. I liked it because it was the only one I actually remembered to change. And then the good thing is that for a week, you didn't have to wear it at all because that was like the week you would get your period. So you're really only wearing it 3 weeks out of the whole month. So I loved it. He hated it. And I must have stopped using it because I remember he used to make so many comments about it and made me feel so insecure all the time. And so I stopped using it. And like I said, my period was always really up and down. Sometimes I would go 2 months without having my period. And it was not easy for me to understand if I was pregnant or not because my period was all over the place. I remember, and I'm not quite sure why I did this, because I was 18 years old. I had gone to the CLSC. This could also go with the fact that I'm a hypochondriac. I've said this before. I go to the doctors all the fucking time. I literally, like, even now, I have like a pinky that's hurting me, that when I touch my skin, my pinky hurts. And I'm like, oh God, is it a pinky tumor, you know? And so I am always like, if I feel something, I'm like, I live in fucking Canada. I have pretty much free healthcare. I will go get checked anytime I need to. Anytime I feel something that I feel like is like outside of my realm of understanding in the health system, and my close contacts of nurses do not respond to me, and ChatGPT is not giving me a satisfying answer, I will call my I literally have my doctor on fucking speed dial. And this man knows that I am psychotic because he's been with me since I was like 14 years old. And so he will give me an appointment within not 12 hours to chill me the fuck out because he knows I'll harass him if not. So I go to the CLSC. I remember that they took a pregnancy test on me. They took blood test, and they did, I don't know what other test they did, but I remember, and I don't know why, but this is so fucked up. The nurse sitting with me, okay, and these nurses knew me really, really well because I had already been going there for several years because of when I, thought about having sex and so on and so forth, all of the other various times that I went there with a million questions. They literally knew me on a first name basis. This nurse sat in front of me and she said, Bianca, I think in the future you're going to really have trouble having kids. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would you say that to me? And I just remember, I don't remember the whole conversation because I remember after she said that to me, kind of just like, like when someone tells you something that's like not good news and they're talking, but you're not really listening, you're staring at them, but there's like all these math equations going on above your head and you're just like, how is this possible? And you're kind of thinking to yourself inside your mind and you're hearing your own voice, you're not hearing them. You see them talking, but you don't know what they're saying. And I can still visualize this perfectly in that stupid fucking office at the CLSC. And she just basically had told me that I would have trouble having kids in my future and that, I should consider doing freezing my eggs later on, or just a bunch of shit that I was like, ma'am, I'm 18 fucking years old. Like, why is this something that I would want to hear But I remember leaving there in such a bad fucking mood and calling my mom and basically telling her like, this fucking bitch just told me that I won't have kids in the future, or that it'll be really hard for me to have kids in the future. And at this point, I didn't even know if I wanted kids. But when someone suddenly tells you that you can't have them, you obviously start to think about all the, I don't know, what ifs, or, you know, is it something that I did? Is it something that I did to my body? Or I don't know. And I remember going home that night and telling Alex, and I don't really remember him giving much of a fuck, to be honest with you, but I remember him being upset that this woman told me this, because I guess he saw that I was upset. He had a bit of feeling, I guess, but he was just mad that I was mad. Okay, so that's all it really was. I didn't think too much of it. A couple days passed, and I don't know, I guess I just went back to my everyday life. Skip to like 2 weeks later, my best friend Brittany is in town. I don't know where she was at this point. I feel like I hadn't seen her in a while. I say in town, but like she lived in Montreal, so I can't really say in town. I think I said in town because she doesn't live in Montreal anymore, but she was living in Montreal. It's just I wasn't really seeing people at the time because I was in this fucked up relationship. And I remember this specific night, Alex was going out with his friends to a work dinner. And I fucking air quote work dinner because it was absolutely not a work dinner. But so while he was at this work dinner, I don't know why that night I said, you go to your fucking work dinner and I'm having a fucking friend over. He liked Brittany because he would say that, you know, Brittany wasn't a hoe. Brittany was also like my chillest friend, the friend that I had the longest, the one that I was the closest to, and the one that I would say was the least boy crazy. So he was confident that if I was with Brittany, we probably were not causing chaos. And so he went out, Britt came over. We were so excited to hang out. And I don't know I don't know how this happened, but we ended up at the pharmacy or at the dollar store. And we just had one of those nights where it was like, we ransacked the pharmacy or the dollar store, or maybe even both, to be honest. And I just remember like throwing a bunch of things in my cart, and like we were playing around and we were just getting like dumb shit and snacks and this and that. At the time, I was still smoking weed, right? So we were like, okay, we're gonna smoke, we're gonna drink, like let's get some munchies, blah, blah, blah. We were throwing a bunch of stuff in the cart. And I remember when we got to the pregnancy test, as a joke, there was a special on pregnancy test. And she's like, you should take 2 of them or 3 of them. And she threw like 3 pregnancy tests in my cart. And I think it was probably like a joke because in high school it had happened so many times that I was like, oh my God, I think I'm pregnant. And I never was. And so I don't know, maybe being a little stoned at the time, we thought it was funny. And so she threw them in my cart. We continued shopping. Didn't think much of it. When we got to the cash, ended up paying for it, left them in the fucking cart because I think they were like literally like $2. I was like, who doesn't need pregnancy tests at home every once in a while, you know? So whatever. Took them home. We get home, crack open beers. We're smoking. We're drinking. We're reminiscing on old times, like having a blast, like having such a grand old time. And then all of a sudden, we're at a point where, you know, you've had like a good 3-4 beers and you're 18 and you're feeling the buzz. I remember I was really feeling the buzz. And again, I don't know why we came to this conclusion, but she was like, you should take a pregnancy test. And I was like, ha ha ha, yeah. I don't know why. I went into the bathroom, whatever, peed on the stick, left it on my counter, went back out, continued to drink, continued to smoke, completely forgot about it. I think probably like 40 minutes later, she was like, hey, did you pee on the pregnancy stick? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, what did it say? And I was like, oh, like I actually forgot about it. So I run to the bathroom and I look at it and there's 2 lines. And so I'm like, Brittany, 2 lines. I'm like, doesn't this mean pregnant? And so I pass it to her. She's looking at it and she's like, this is your pregnant. And so then I'm like, okay, but It's been out for so long. Like, it's for sure wrong. And maybe that's why they were on special. And she's like, okay, take another one. We bust out another one. I pee on this one. Within like a minute and a half, 2 lines. I'm like, these are broken, Brittany. That's why they were fucking on special, because these are all broken. She's like, pee on a third one. I mustered whatever last droplets of pee that I had in me to pee on this motherfucking stick. And I shit you the fuck not. What, like within not even a minute, 2 lines. So we're looking at each other. And I just remember thinking like, this has to be a fucking joke right now, right? Because we're both pretty drunk at this point. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say right now. I'm thinking that this is a joke, right? Because 2 weeks ago, I went to the CLSC and they looked me in the fucking eyes and said, you will have difficulty getting pregnant when you are older. I did not try to get pregnant. Hell, I'm going to give you a little bit more information and I'm going to tell you that there really was not even that much of an opportunity for me to get pregnant because, I mean, I say this, but it's stupid because I know there's going to be someone who's going to be like, well, he doesn't have to finish inside of you for you to get pregnant. You know what? I am proof of that because that is the truth. I also just want to say something, okay? That I feel like I should have said this in the beginning. This is something that literally no one knows. My mom and my best friends know about this. Really, I can count on half a hand how many people know about this. And so if you're listening to this right now and you know members of my family or you know people that know me, shut the fuck up. Take this as if I'm having a conversation just between me and you. If you're not listening to this with your own ears, you do not have a right to know what I'm talking about in here because this is a private conversation. My rough drafts. This is just us. This is not for anybody else's ears. If it was, I would have told them myself, but it isn't. And I'm telling you, and I'm hoping that you know how to keep a secret because this is a secret that is from my mouth to your ears. And that's it. You can imagine the state that I was in. But at this point, I think I'm so drunk that I am like, I need to call Alex and tell him that he's going to be a dad because the craziest part of this entire situation is the fact that they had just told me I would never have kids. And then here I am 3 pregnancies deep, very pregnant. I'm like, I need to tell Alex that we're going to be having a child. Like, this is insane. We're going to be having a child. I'm pretty sure I Googled like folic acid, like prenatal pills right after I took these. And I was like, oh my God. I went into mom mode, right? And I was like, oh my God. But then I was also like, holy fuck, I've been smoking. I've been drinking. Like, this is probably not good for the baby. So I'm like a little bit panicked, right? I call Alex and I tell him, you need to come back home like right now. He's like, for what? I'm like, you need to come back home right now because like something happened. So he starts screaming at me that I need to tell him what's going on, that he's not going to come back home if I don't tell him what's happening and blah, 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 blah. And I say, okay, if I tell you what's going on, are you going to come back home? He's like, absolutely. And so I said, I took a pregnancy test and I'm pregnant. And he's like, no, you're not. And I said, yeah, I took 3 of them. So like, I'm pretty sure it's correct. And he's like, how did this happen? And I said, I don't know. And then I just hear him like put the phone kind of away from his mouth. And he says, oh my God, Bianca's pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. And then I hear him and his friends just like screaming in the background, like as if they're so happy. And it's just like so crazy thinking about it now. Cause like it's actually kind of fucked up because there was like nothing happy or nice about this situation. Like nobody should have been happy about it, but I don't know why we were all pretending that we were. And so I'm like, yeah, you're going to come home now, right? And he was like, no, I'm still at my work meeting. So I was like, you literally just fucking told me that you're going to be coming home. And he said, no, I got to finish my work meeting and then I'm going to come home. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just going to stay here with Britt a little bit longer and I'll wait for you to get home. Brittany stayed with me, I think probably until like 3:30 in the morning, right? Because we figured after 3 o'clock, wherever the fuck he was would definitely be closed and he should he should be coming home, but he didn't come home. Britt ended up leaving. She literally lived like 3 blocks down from where I was living, which is like so crazy that I never saw her when I could have spat from where I lived and hit her house. And this is where truly like the night from fucking hell began, because I sat by the door with my phone in my hand all night waiting for this piece of fucking shit. And he didn't come home. And at around 5 o'clock in the morning, I had just fucking had it up to here. I got into the car. Thankfully, he had gone with his friends, so the car was there. I got into the car. I drove downtown to where I just had a fucking feeling he was going to be. If you're familiar with the clubs downtown back in the day, you'll remember Cafeteria. I had some fucking crazy memories there, but he used to literally live at Cafeteria. And so I went down to Saint Laurent in my fucking pajamas. It was 5:30 in the morning. Got out of my car. I literally parked illegally somewhere. Got out of the car in my fucking PJs. I was fuming. I get to the door. The bouncer looks at me and he goes, "Bianca, I can't let you in." And I said, "If you don't fucking let me the fuck in, I am gonna start smashing shit." I think he probably saw how fucking upset I was that he did not even try to argue with me. Like, he just pretended to turn his head and moved from the door. I walked I have to say, this fucking bouncer, like, I'm pretty sure his name was Darnell. Darnell, wherever you are in the world, like, you were a real one, because in so many situations, I know that you should not have let me into the club. And you always did. And because of you, I found out so many things that I should have never found out. And you've really fucking had my back without really having my back, but you did have my back, so I appreciate that. But I walked into Cafeteria, and obviously Cafeteria was closed. There was like just the degenerates that were left there and like a bunch of hoes practically. Oh, that's mean to say, because one of the girls that I found there, like, I actually kind of like her now. I think she's a chill girl. She just hung around with really shit people. I think she still does now anyway. But I walked in and I saw Alex there with his loser friends and all of these girls, one of them being his ex-girlfriend. And they were all sitting there drinking in the booth. I'm there in pajamas, screaming at the top of my motherfucking lungs. He sees me, he turns purple. Okay, at this point I'm like still surprised that he is shocked every time he sees me show up places, because like, have you not fucking learned? Have you really not learned that I am psychotic and I will hunt you down wherever but especially on a night like this, especially on a night where I literally tell you that I'm pregnant. Okay, I should not have driven that night because I had drank, I had smoked, I was pregnant, I was upset. And I mean, I literally dragged him out of there. Obviously, we ended up leaving and we scrapped all the way home. But then something happened. When we got home, he was like super nice to me, and he actually did not lay a finger on me while I was pregnant. Never did anything to me. I don't even remember him trying to do something to me or like pretending he was even going to lift a hand towards me, you know? The entire time that I was pregnant, he never laid a finger on me. I'm not going to say he was a good boyfriend, because he wasn't. He just didn't hit me. He definitely was still cheating on me, definitely was still lying to me and everything else, but at least he was not beating me up, right? I think the fact that, you know, I had made that promise to myself before I started having sex that if I had ever become pregnant, that I needed to be mature and responsible enough to carry through with the pregnancy, because it was not fair to a fetus or to a baby to have to die just because I was not careful and I was not responsible. The crazy thing about being pregnant is everything is a ticking time bomb, right? It's not something that you could just put out of your mind. It's not something that you're like, okay, well, don't think about it, because the more you don't think about it, the more your body starts to think about it for you. And, you know, within a week, maybe, I started, when I say like exorcism vomiting morning till night, truly, I don't even know why they call it morning sickness, because it should be called all day, all night, 24-hour sickness. I would just puke all day long. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't keep anything down. I was losing so much weight instead of putting on weight. And I was just so sick all the time. I didn't know what to do with myself. Truly, I felt like I had a demon inside of my body. I really think that I had a demon inside me. And I was just determined to have this child. And I knew that it was right for me to do so. And I said, it's my responsibility. And as a mother, this is, you know, my first step as a mother is going to be taking care of my body and making sure that I'm okay and protecting myself and protecting my child. And I went through many different scenarios of like, you know, maybe I can run away. Maybe I can run away and I can go somewhere and I can have this baby, you know, just me and the child, and start a new life somewhere else. But I didn't really have any money. I was not working at the time. I had just gone back to school, so I wasn't working. I didn't really have money. All of the money was him. He pretty much took care of the money portion of our lives, and I had like pennies in my bank account. So where was I gonna go with a child and no money? Nobody knew what was going on beside like two of my friends and him. And so it was a bit of a rough situation. And, you know, I thought about having the baby and having it adopted. And then I went through weeks of just like, would I be okay knowing that my child is out here and it's not with me? And you think about a lot of different things, and you go through a lot of different scenarios, and then your body starts to grow and you start to feel things, and it's like it becomes more and more real every second that passes, every day that passes. And you just get more and more nervous because you're trying to figure out, and you know that your time is running out and you need to figure something out quickly. And so I realized that I had to tell my mom. My mom knew that I had already had, like, she knew that I didn't have a super consistent period. And so sometimes, you know, when I didn't get my period, I would tell her like, oh, fuck it, I still didn't get my period and blah, blah, blah. But then, you know, she would ask me a couple weeks after and she'd be like, did you get your period? And I'd say, oh, yeah, I came, or, you know, whatever, it's fine. And so on and so forth. And I guess when I didn't get my period that time, I had told her at some point, like, oh, I still didn't get my period. I still didn't get my period. And then kind of forgot about it. And one day we went grocery shopping together, and she came back to my house with me. And I'll never forget this, because we were unbagging the groceries and she was standing in front of the fridge and we were taking things out of the bag, and she was holding chicken nuggets. She was holding a box of chicken nuggets. And she said, did you get your period? And I said, nope. And she said, you still didn't get your period? Like, is that not weird? And I said, yup. And still with the chicken nuggets in her hand, she said, are you not worried? Are you not going to take a pregnancy test? And I said, oh, I did. And then she said, okay, and I said, and it came out positive. And she dropped those chicken nuggets. I still remember the sound they made when she dropped the chicken nuggets. And I was like, and she said, oh my God, Bianca. And I remember seeing her face go from like so upset to like in 5 seconds go to, whatever you want to do, I'm going to support you. And my mom and I have definitely had an interesting, I was going to say friendship, which is fitting that I would say something like that, because I do feel like my mom has always been my friend, and we have had an interesting friendship, and we've had an interesting relationship. And so this was a really important moment for me to tell her this, because she had just had her second miscarriage. My mom was trying to have another baby. This was before my sister Capri was born, and she had just had her second miscarriage, like I think maybe a month or two before I told her that I was pregnant. And so that was another really big reason for me it was so difficult to even consider the idea of getting rid of this child and aborting this child, because I said, how could I kill a baby when there are so many people in the world who are dying to have a child, would do anything to have a child, and are spending money on IVF and, you know, are just doing everything they can to adopt. And I'm here young at 18 years old, have a baby, and I'm just going to go kill it. I thought about having the baby and giving it to my mom. That was definitely something that crossed my mind. But ultimately, I think as the months went on, I just kept realizing more and more that I spent majority of my time I spent majority of my time fantasizing how I would leave Alex all the time, which is fucked up because this literally went on for so many years. I was with him for a little over 3 years, I think. And the whole time was just pretty much me fantasizing about leaving him all the time. Like, there was really never a period where I was happily with him. And then, you know, having to think about leaving him with a child, I was like, I don't know if that's gonna fly. And most importantly, I was like, why would I ever want to give this man a child? A, because I said, God for fucking bid, I have a child who's like him. The way I brought him into the world, I'm going to have to take him out. And I say that because I remember his mother in a moment of extreme anger, even though I deeply believe that she said this and she meant it. She had told me that so many times Alex had, you know, hurt people and had done horrible things. And she had really thought about the fact that she had birthed such a disgusting human being, if it was her responsibility to take him out of the world, because she was the one that brought him in. And I never would want to be in that position. I can't even imagine what type of person you have to be for karma to fucking get you like that. And so I said, no. And so I made an appointment to get an abortion. And then I canceled it. And then I made another one, and then I canceled that one. I made another one, I canceled that one. But actually, before all of this, when I told my mom, she said, I think you really need to go to the CLSC and make sure that you're really pregnant. Even though I fucking knew I was, because I was vomiting. Like, there was no other explanation for why I was vomiting the way that I was. And so I did go to the CLSC because A, I wanted to get to the fucking bottom to why you would tell me literally a couple weeks ago that I was never going to have a child. And I probably was already pregnant, which is the most fucked up part. And so I remember I went there, we did blood tests and all that. And 3 nurses came into the room with me. All 3 of these nurses, I knew them all. I was familiar with all of them. One of those nurses was the one that had told me a couple weeks before that I wasn't going to have a baby. And they all took 3 different stances. One basically drilled into me saying that I was an irresponsible person because I did not take birth control and that I was pregnant and now it was too late and I was going to have this baby because how could you kill a baby? How could you be that person? The second person told me that I was too young to have a baby and that I should really highly consider having an abortion because I was not ready and I was in no state of mind to be able to take care of a child. And the third one told me that I should have the baby and that I should put it up for adoption because there was tons of people who were looking for a healthy baby, and that just because I had found myself in this situation, the only alternative was not just aborting. And so I found myself 18 years old in this office, in this small, tiny, cramped, motherfucking little office with these 3 old hags drilling into me about what I was going through. And honestly, if I could have, I would have killed each and every single one of them, because I felt like the way that they were talking to me was so extremely condescending and it was so emotionless, and they were not taking into consideration so many different things. And they didn't know that I was also going through all 3 of those characters every single day, all the time. And it kept changing depending on how Alex was treating me, depending on how I was feeling that morning, depending on how much I was throwing up, depending on, a variety of different situations. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But just because he wasn't beating me up, it was not a reason for me to have his child. Because had I done this, that would have meant that I would have been stuck to him for the rest of my fucking life. That getting away from him would not have been that easy. That, leaving the country and having a baby and not making him ever meet this child was also not an option. Like, it was just not fair. Why would I bring a child into a life like this? Okay. We were also living not the greatest life. We were living a sketchy, dangerous lifestyle, and it was just no place for a child at all. There was no room for a baby. There was no room for even me in that life. I don't know why I, even considered for half a second that I should bring a baby into the mix. And so I also knew it was only a matter of time that after I gave birth that he would start hitting me. And then I thought to myself, imagine when this kid gets older, what if he starts hitting this kid? Then I'm actually going to have to kill him. And the more time went forward, the more I realized I was running out of time to get an abortion. When I went to the CLSC, I was about 9 weeks pregnant, which was already, it was late. Like, it was getting late, and I needed to make a decision. I was just so sick, and I felt like that was also a sign from above of telling me this baby is fucking rotten. This baby is no good. This baby is a demon. And the fact that you are literally not able to go 45 minutes without throwing up profusely is a sign that this is not the baby for you. And so this time I booked the abortion, and every single time my mom, would say, if you're ready for this, I'm going to come with you. If you want to keep it, I'm there for you. She was great. I don't know if I would have gotten through that entire period if it wasn't for my mom, because she was so fucking there for me. And the day of the abortion, he went to work, as if it was nothing. I guess it's kind of crazy because he didn't even really put up a fight when I said that I was getting an abortion, I think he probably also knew that it wasn't a good idea. I feel like part of him was also just tired of holding back from not beating the shit out of me. And so maybe he knew that he would get to start doing that again faster had I just had the abortion. And I just kept thinking, imagine this baby comes out like him, like a fucking schizophrenic piece of shit who treats women the way that his father treats. I could not do that. My first job as a mother meant that I needed to abort this child. Being responsible and being mature meant that I needed to understand that my first act as a mother needed to be aborting this child. That was the right thing to do. For me, for the child, for all of us. This was not a child that should have been brought into the world. And I don't regret that decision even one single bit. And I don't think about this decision ever. I would be lying to you if I said this is something that still weighs on me. Truly, I don't even remember when I did it. And although I don't have a great memory, I remember dates. I remember times so well about things that were important to me and things that were meaningful to me. I don't even remember the month I had an abortion. So what does that even tell you? When we got to the clinic that morning, I made my mom bring me. There was a room full of us waiting to get abortions. It was all these different cots. And there was just all these girls in the cots with their boyfriends. And I was the only one there that was with her mom. And the nurse walked in and said, who's the first one? Who wants to be the first one? And I raised my hand and I said, me. She grabbed me. I was fucking vomiting my face out all the way up until they rolled me into that room. She gave me some drugs and I said, give me more drugs. They gave me more drugs and I said, give me more drugs. And she said, it's already over. It happened so fucking quickly. I just remember I was because they kind of fucking, the drugs they just kind of stone you a bit. And so I remember feeling something, I didn't really feel much. I remember seeing a giant orange blob kind of being carried out of the middle of my legs and being put into a sink. And I remember the thought of like, are they grabbing my baby and putting it into someone else? Like, why are they putting it in a sink? And I just remember that was like a thought that fucking haunted me even when I got home that night. But it was like a 2-minute thing. I feel like it happened so quick, because I know the third time I asked them for the drugs, they said it's already done. And they wheeled me out and they brought me into the room and they said, you have to stay here for like an hour or something. And they gave me an orange juice and they gave me some crackers. Ate my crackers, took my orange juice, looked at my mom and I said, let's get the fuck out of here. They did not want me to leave. They said I had to wait. And I said, I am fucking leaving whether you tell me I can leave or not. And before I left, they said, we need to talk to you about, you know, emergency contraceptives and blah, 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 blah. And I said, don't fucking worry. I'm definitely going to be on birth control after this. And I went back on the patch. And I said, you know what? If he doesn't want to have sex with me, better. All the fucking better. And I kept on using that fucking patch. And I didn't give a fuck. When I left that clinic, you know, beside knowing what clinic it was, I know that it was a CLSC in Laval. I don't know much else. I really don't remember the month. I don't remember the day. I don't remember the time. I don't remember who the nurse looked like. I don't remember anything about that day. It was very blurry. I know that my mom brought me there. I know my mom brought me back. And I remember wishing that I could have gone back to her house and stayed with her. But I went back to my own house and I sat there. I laid there until he came home and we didn't really talk about it. And I just remember thinking, you know, I was going to bleed for a month, and I did. I bled for more than a month. I bled for a month and a half, and I was so happy because he was not able to even touch me. Getting that abortion was the smartest thing I ever did. I will never, ever, 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 ever regret having that abortion. Because if I had a fucking child right now with Alex, I think I would have killed myself. It was so difficult to leave that relationship even without a baby. I can't imagine what it would have been like leaving with a baby. The highlight of this situation, because there is a highlight, is that obviously deciding to get this abortion, it was a decision that although it, you know, when I realized that I had to do it, it was very clear, and I knew that it was the right choice. It was difficult because of my mom and because I knew how badly she wanted a baby. And I remember after I had the abortion and after she had her miscarriage, I had gotten her a bamboo tree. It was just like a small bamboo tree, and I brought it to her house and I said, it's supposed to bring you luck. And I wonder if she still has it, because I know that bamboo tree grew so fucking tall. And I think about a month and a half after I had my abortion, my mom got pregnant again with my sister, with Capri. And the idea that if I would have a baby right now, the child would be a month older than my sister is actually crazy. I feel like a part of me always feels like Capri is a bit my baby too, you know? Like I couldn't take care of a baby back then, but I knew my mom was ready to take care of a baby. And I knew how much she wanted a baby, and I know that I didn't. There was just something nice about the fact that I aborted and then my mom got pregnant, and she was able to carry till full term, and we got my sister. I mean, granted, we thought Capri was going to be a boy named Crucificho, which Mom, I think we really dodged a fucking bullet on that one. And in the end, I think it all worked out the way that it was supposed to. I guess the moral of the story is no matter what the decision you make, things will always line up. Things will always align the way that they're supposed to. And when you feel in your gut that you're supposed to do something, just do it. Because fuck, I still meet people now that will talk to me about abortions that they had, and they're so and hold on. I know that everybody has their own experiences and I don't want to invalidate somebody else's experience. But for me, I know that my, situation was a little bit in particular because I was dating Satan. But, sometimes I think about this and I think if the situation was different and it was Shane's baby or if it was Stefano's baby, like, would I have been able to abort it with such, like, the same way as I easily did when it was Alex's? I don't think so. But I was aware that I didn't want a baby. I was aware that I didn't want a baby, and I was aware that I should not have been feeling the way that I was feeling if I wanted a baby. And I'm not saying that just because you feel that way, maybe it means that you shouldn't have your baby, but just because you get pregnant and just because you can have a baby doesn't mean you should have a baby. Doesn't mean you should be a mother. Just because you can be a mother. Not everybody should be a mother. And I'm not going to let anybody make me feel bad about my decision, because sometimes I've had conversations with people who talk about their abortions and they talk about it as if it's this, like, it was a gloomy October day and blah, blah, blah. Like, and if that's your experience, that's fine also. Me, I got out of there and I was like, ready to go. I'm fine. We're good. Never looked back. Really, truly never looked back. Really, truly never felt bad about it. Never regretted it. And there's no reason to pretend like I feel that way. Like, I don't care. I know that that's fucking the harsh truth, but it's the reality of it. I wrote some things down on my phone because I also realized a very large part of my listeners are from America, which is kind of crazy for me. I have a bigger audience in America than Canada, then the UK, and then Australia, which I think is fucking sick. Like, I feel like I made it, guys, okay? Because I feel like Australians and the UK and America, like, I feel like when they listen to your podcast, you made it. So I'm almost there. Not that I don't love Canada, but I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just cool because I'm fucking from Canada, right? So the fact that there's other places that listen. There's also Italy. Italy's like a very small portion, but like, I obviously get it. Most of them don't speak English, so you probably have no fucking idea what I'm saying. And until Spotify comes out with some type of translation, we're stuck there. But the reason I wrote this on my phone is because there's certain things that I want to talk about because of everything that's going on with abortion laws. And I know that this was maybe a topic of a couple months ago. And trust me, I definitely wanted to talk about it a couple months ago, but I felt like everybody was talking about it. And so now that I feel like it started to die down, I want to bring it back. The idea, as somebody who has gotten an abortion, the idea that a man should be responsible when it comes to my body to tell me if I can or can't have an abortion, or to tell me that there are certain limitations to when I can have an abortion in the sense of if I'm raped, if a family member raped me, X, Y, and Z. You cannot possibly tell me that those are the only circumstances in which I'm allowed to have an abortion, because I don't know about you, but especially for us here in Canada, I can get an abortion every single fucking month if I wanted to. Is it correct? No, I don't by any means think it's correct. And I don't by any means think that it's something that somebody should be taking advantage of a system that allows you to do this for free. Because I also know that I grew up watching 16 and Pregnant when I was younger. I don't know if you did, but I feel like a big part of the audience is kind of the same age as me. And if you watched 16 and Pregnant, you know that a lot of that show, I remember they would be like, I don't have money for an abortion. But it's like, bitch, where did you think that you were going to have money for a kid? But now, oddly enough, I was scrolling before and I was looking at Chelsea. I don't know if you remember Chelsea with her daughter, Aubrey. Aubrey's like a fucking full adult now. And she just got like a new car. Her mom just gifted her a car. Anyways, I was watching it and I was like, oh my God, it's fucking so crazy. I don't still keep up with the show. I saw it while scrolling and I just thought it was fucking insane that, like, obviously these girls made crazy money from 16 and Pregnant and then Teen Mom 2 and so on and yada yada. And they were, pushed into reality TV. And so they ended up having money to take care of their children, which I think was probably the point of the TV show on MTV, which awesome. But there are so many moms in the States who you don't get abortions because they just genuinely don't have money to get abortions, because I think it's a couple grand. And so if you're 16, 17 years old and you don't have money to get an abortion in that moment, I don't know why you think that maybe the alternative is having a baby. But I know that here in Canada, you can have an abortion for free all the time if you wanted to. I know that they say for your body, you're not supposed to have more than 3 abortions. Do I call bullshit on that? A little bit, because I know people who have had more than 3 abortions and they have children now. So do they just say that so that maybe you limit how many times that you use your get out of jail free card? Perhaps. But I would like to talk about the myth of regret, okay? Because I feel like there is this assumption that all women regret having abortions. And I can tell you that a lot of people that I've spoken to who have had abortions do not regret having abortions. Ever. Like, I don't, like, I've spoken to a couple of people who will tell the story in like a very sad way, but most people I've spoken to, even who have children now who have had abortions, don't feel guilty and don't feel any regret towards having an abortion. Like, we did it because I think truly that was the first act of motherhood on our part, in knowing that the correct thing to do in that moment was to just not have a baby at that moment. Really just simple as that. I would not have been a good mom then. I don't think I would have even been a good mom now. I think if I'm forced to, I can try, but is that what my baby deserves? Okay. I also think that the idea of people saying like, oh my God, but you'd be such a good mother. And what's your fucking point? What is your fucking point? What, like, that is what you should not say to somebody if they're considering getting an abortion. Don't say, oh, but I think you'd be such a good mother. I don't give a fuck. I think you would do really well shutting the fuck up and minding your own business, because the only person who needs to take care of that baby and who needs to carry that baby for 9 months is you, bitch. That's it. It's really no one else's business. I understand people saying, you know, the father has a say. The father has a say to a certain degree. But if you as a mother know that you do not want a child, or even if you have another child and you don't want another child and you want to abort the child that you currently have, that is up to you. You don't owe anybody any explanations. You don't need to have any valid fucking reasons, in my opinion. Is it correct? Is every single situation correct? No, I don't think so either. But it's your choice. It's your body. It's your choice. I think definitely in my case, I waited till I was almost pushing 4 months before I had my abortion. And I know that they were not thrilled with that, because I had started making my appointments at like 2.5-ish months up until 4 months. And I just kept, you know, making my appointment, canceling, because again, this is obviously a serious decision that you don't want to make lightly. And I really wanted to go through all of my options and kind of get all my thoughts out before I made the final decision. Because the crazy thing is I remember while it was happening, I was on the table and vomiting while it was going on. And then I just remember the nurse saying, okay, in a second, you're not going to feel it anymore. And then all of a sudden, you're just not pregnant anymore. Like 1 second you're pregnant and then you're just not pregnant. 1 second I was throwing up. Like I literally thought I was dying. I could not stop throwing up. And then it just stopped. Everything. It all just stopped. But then you go home and your body still looks pregnant. Your stomach is still big. Your body still feels pregnant, you know, but you're not anymore. And it was a very isolating month that month. I remember I stayed in, I didn't go to school much, and nobody really knew what was going on beside my mom. And I think that for a long time, what the struggle was the fact that it was so nice for 4 months to not have been getting beat up by my boyfriend. There was that, you know, tiny little thing every once in a while of maybe we can make this work. Like maybe he'll be nice to me. Maybe when we have a baby, it will actually solve everything. Maybe this baby will change everything. Maybe this baby will make him realize how much he loves me. And maybe this baby will make him stop being angry and he's going to stop hitting me. And maybe. And I'm living in fucking La La Land. And when you're in a relationship that's so abusive, like you're so mentally fucked up and you think so many different things that obviously now looking back, I'm like, how fucking stupid were you? But I also need to give myself a little bit of grace because I was going through so much mentally and emotionally, and it was just so much to deal with. And I understand why I thought those thoughts, but I am very happy that the stronger thoughts of realization and of clarity were the ones that won and dragged me to that clinic that day. The idea of secrecy and shame and silence, okay? So why so many people don't share their abortion stories even with their family, because it's true. Like I said, as somebody like me who just fucking yaps all the time, and I'm so open about my experiences, good, bad, embarrassing, whatever it may be, I am so open with all these things. But when it came to this was something that I really was just like, zip, throw away the key. Don't talk about it. We don't bring this up. I still have a bit of like, the weird thing is like, I don't have emotions toward this situation, but I don't want people to know this about me. I don't want them to judge this part of me. I don't want them like, and the thing is like, I don't know why I feel that way, or I don't know why I have like, I don't know if it's embarrassment, but at the same time, it's like, I don't actually give a fuck about the situation. But if my dad found out about this, I would actually feel really bad. I'm not sure about what. I don't know if I would feel bad about maybe like not having told him this, because I feel like obviously he would be proud that this is the outcome, right? But I think there's definitely something around the fact of, women just being so secretive about having abortions and feeling like they shouldn't tell anybody. But it's also kind of similar to having miscarriages, right? Like now that I'm older and I have a lot of friends who are pregnant and who have been pregnant and who have had so many miscarriages, I'm like, wow, miscarriages are actually so fucking common, but you would never fucking know it because no one talks about it. As if like a miscarriage is your fucking fault. It's not. Sometimes it happens for absolutely no fucking reason. But people are so afraid to even talk about miscarriages. And because of that, you have all of these moms who go through multiple miscarriages before having their babies, and just they suffer in silence and they don't tell anybody because they feel like they're the only ones, but they don't know that most people have miscarriages. It's actually a super normal thing. Maybe if we would stop being so fucking quiet about it, more people would not feel like they have failed or like they've done something wrong, and they would feel like it's okay. I tried, it didn't work, and I can try again, instead of feeling like they've done something wrong. And I'm kind of hoping it's the same thing with an abortion. If you feel that you are not in a position to have a baby, if you feel like you're not with the right person to have a baby, if you feel whatever the fuck you feel, like a list of reasons over here, that's absolutely fine. You don't even need to tell anybody these reasons. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to feel bad. You don't need to feel guilty. I mean, listen, again, I'm going back to this. If you are somebody who sleeps around and really uses abortions as a method of contraception, maybe you should fucking reevaluate your morals and like stop taking advantage of our healthcare system this way, because I also don't think that is correct. I also don't think it's good for your body. So maybe just take a second to, figure that out about yourself. But beside that, I feel like what you do with your body is your fucking business. Even if you want to be a hoe and sleep around and get an abortion every month, I mean, that's up to you also. It really obviously doesn't help with all of these laws that are going around and all of these conversations that are being put out and people voicing their very strong opinions. And, the idea that when I got my abortion, had it been a different time or a different year, I could have gone to prison for the choice that I made, a choice that I knew I had to make, for me is just, it's mind fucking blowing. Mind blowing that anybody could have a fucking opinion on what I do with my body. Because why do you fucking care? Why do you fucking care? There are so many kids in the world. We are not lacking babies. That's for fucking sure. Hell, I'm probably doing you a favor removing some people out of the fucking world. So I don't understand how is this something that we're even talking about? And after all the progress that we've made, how can anybody ever even consider going backwards? And I'm also very aware that whoever is listening to this podcast may not feel the same way about this topic as I do. I'm very aware that there is a certain time limit where the fetus is a fully, grown baby. I don't know all the scientific terms and all the explanations, and I don't necessarily know when a baby is considered a fully grown baby. I know that there are babies who are born sometimes at 7 months and they're pretty fucking fully grown. They're missing a couple things here and there. I think the last things to come in are lungs. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong, so take this with a fucking grain of salt. I'm not a doctor, but there's time limits. Also, if abortion clinics exist and they give you a limit of 3-4 months, which I think that is the cutoff time. I heard someone say the other day that there's actual no cutoff time. I don't actually know if that's true, because what I think it's correct if you're pregnant and you decide to get an abortion at 7 months or 8 months. No, I don't think that that's correct. I think that at that point you're having a funeral for that baby. So I think that that's a little bit different. I can tell you that I saw what came out with my own 2 eyes. Granted, I was fucked up and I was drugged, but I saw what came out of me and it looked like a blob of jello. It was a blobby jello piece. That was not a child. That was not a baby. It didn't have a body. It didn't have fingers. It didn't have eyes. It didn't have anything. It didn't have a head. It was literally nothing. It was blobs of jello. So no, I didn't feel bad. Would I feel differently if I saw a real child coming out of me? I think that would be a different story. That's why I do think that if you are in a position where you're thinking about getting an abortion, you need to give yourself a time limit. You got to fucking decide at a certain point. You can't wait till you're 7-8 months pregnant and then decide to have an abortion then. I don't even know if 6 months is too far. Fuck, I don't even know if 5 months is too far. It's like I'm thinking about some of my friends right now who are pregnant and who are at that stage. And I can't imagine them having an abortion now. This is a baby that we have been talking about. This is a baby that, we've named already and that we follow on an app, and that is the size of a avocado and a cantaloupe and this and that and this and that. And now it's grown to a certain size and there's been an ultrasound and you see that it has legs and you see that it has fingers. That's a different story. I don't think you should have an abortion when you're that far along. But again, if you want to, it's your fucking business. It's not mine. It's not for me to decide. It's not for anybody to decide but you. I hope that if you have an opinion on this topic, you will reach out. I would love to hear about what you have to say, whether you agree with my opinions or whether you don't. I am more than capable to have a conversation about either side. I am not here to judge. I'm not here to do anything other than just listen. And like I've said, we are all just rough drafts. This is all of our first time living and trying to make sense of our lives. And I truly, strongly want to believe that we all just try to do what we think is best for us and for the people around us. Even if sometimes people don't understand that. So if you've made it up till here, I appreciate it and I love you. If you don't follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, please do. Barely edited with a 3. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Tell me, what is it about them? Living like it's their game. Karma said it better than me. You'll just end up losing.